Welcome back to Bullyball, a San Francisco 49ers podcast. We have another prospect interview for you guys today, and it's definitely an interesting one. We have Jake Witt here with us, and you guys are going to love his story. It's a crazy story. We were just talking to him, and we said, you've probably told it 100 times, but you know, everybody needs to hear this story of your path to the NFL draft. So, how's it going today, Jake?
Oh, I'm doing well, guys. Thanks for having me.
No problem. All right, we'll jump right into these questions. Go ahead, Alex.
All right. So my first question for you, doing a little bit of research, looking back at your time in high school, playing some football, it looked like your high school team had an 8-man football team, and you only played for 2 years. What were the positions you were playing back then, and how was that for you? Because I'm not too familiar with 8-man football.
Yeah. So 8-man. I mean, we don't even have tackles at that level. We drop two offensive linemen and we drop a skill position player. So I actually played wide receiver on the offensive side, and then defensive end on the defensive side. So it was fun. It was a fun game. I mean, the field's 14 yards thinner, but it's still 100 yards in length. So it's a fun. I mean, playing receiver, there's no safety, so you're running straight goes, you know what I mean? You beat your corner, you're getting a 70-yard touchdown. So it's a fun game. But yeah, I only played 2 years of that. But we had a lot of good times, made a lot of good memories. So
Definitely. Did you play football growing up, kind of like the Pop Warner youth football, or is it just only those 2 years of high school?
yeah, no, we just those 2 years, we didn't even have a junior high team or anything. We didn't even have a JV team. It was just straight varsity was the first thing you kind of
Gotcha.
hopped into in our area. It was such a small area. So
Gotcha.
Well, that's crazy. And you're obviously going in the NFL draft, but you were a star basketball player before that. So, playing basketball, what position did you play? And do you think you gained any traits from playing basketball that helped you on the football field?
yeah, there are a lot of traits just footwork wise, especially explosiveness, my jumps, all that. My quick twitch muscles are kind of, developed them from playing basketball since I was in second, third grade. But yeah, I mean, high school, like I said, such a small school. So I would basically, I would take the ball up like the point guard sometimes. I'd be playing the big in the post. I'd be shooting the three. I was all over. But once I got to the college level for that year, I mainly played the three or the four position at my size. But yeah, I mean, just, physicality wise, there's football is much different than basketball, obviously, but a lot of the stuff, especially playing in the post, I mean, particular footwork type of deals, that translate over to offensive line play, especially kind of like the kick slide, it's somewhat similar to defending somebody on the perimeter, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of stuff that transferred over that kind of helped me in this quick transition. But yeah, I mean, basketball was much of my life growing up, and now I'm a football guy. So
Yes, sir.
Yeah, definitely. Just to give the people listening out there some background on your basketball, your time at playing basketball, looking at your Northern Michigan bio, it says two-time All-State first team, uh, holds 4 MHSAA state records, UP's all-time leader in rebounds, All-State in basketball 3 times, 3-time Conference Player of the Year, also shot put champion and conference discus record holder as well. So, definitely a multi-sport athlete and dominating at all of them, which is pretty insane, pretty crazy. That kind of leads me though into my next question. Coming out of high school, were you being recruited to play both basketball and football, a little bit more than the other, or were both pretty strong?
yeah, they're both pretty strong. I would say basketball had more offers. I was a little bit more established in basketball. And you go from the eight-man level of a small Upper Peninsula Michigan school. A lot of the colleges kind of overlooked us in a way. You know what I mean? They knew that it would be a huge learning curve jumping from that level up to the college level. So I still had a lot of Division two interest from for football. More of it for basketball. But my final three that I'd finalized it down to were basketball at Michigan Tech and then football at Northern Michigan here, or to take my preferred walk-on opportunity for football at Central Michigan University. So, two of my final three were football. Ended up going with the one basketball one, but led me back to football eventually. So
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
definitely.
And that's actually interesting because I was going to ask you, you attended Michigan Tech for basketball, and what led you to transfer to Northern Michigan to play football? So you had the interest, but what made you decide to actually make that change?
yeah, it wasn't even athletically driven. When I left Michigan Tech, I didn't have in my mind, I'm going to go play football at Northern. So when I went to Michigan Tech, it's a great engineering school. And at the time, I was thinking, I wanted to maybe do something in the engineering field. I wasn't 100% sure which path I wanted to go with that. So I took my general studies courses. I took the intro classes, and when I was at Michigan Tech, that kind of exposed me to college level athletics, strength and conditioning, athletic training, that whole deal. Some stuff that I'd never seen where I was from. So that kind of opened my eyes. I'm like, man, I've always been huge into fitness, nutrition, all that stuff, and opened my eyes into that strength and conditioning realm. So it was actually an academic based transfer. I transferred to Northern Michigan wanting to study something in the health sciences field to eventually go into strength and conditioning. And that's why I graduated with applied exercise science. And, I was just a student for one semester at Northern, and at that time I was like, oh, I'm probably not playing, that wasn't crossing my mind, but I reconnected with the coaches that had recruited me out of high school. And, that spring I ended up joining the team, and the rest is history.
Yeah, definitely. How was that time off for you? Kind of not thinking about playing athletics really. Did you lose a lot of weight, or did you feel like you had to put on a lot of weight to get back with the football team, or how was that transition? Because you went from playing basketball and then now you're taking a little bit of time off and then going into football again. So how was that for you and like your body?
Yeah, I mean, my body, I played basketball at about 250 pounds, and I was big into lifting, right? So, I mean, I wanted to get heavier, right? But a basketball wouldn't let me. So it was kind of nice in that way. I ended up getting up to probably 260, 265 ish that first semester. And then by the time I joined the team that spring, I was around 270. And that's what I was probably the next 2 years ish, was anywhere from 265 to 270 playing tight end. So
Gotcha, definitely. During that time that you transferred to, that was kind of like the COVID year, right? Somewhere around the start of that, more or less.
yeah.
Would you say that COVID made that transition for you a little bit easier or harder since you weren't able to play in like the live games and stuff?
Yeah, yeah. So I joined the team that spring of 2020, and like you said, that's the first spring ball practice I was supposed to have. That's right when COVID hit. We had a meeting that they called at 11 o'clock in the morning. I still remember it, and they said, "Yeah, they shut us down." So we just continued. We were still training together at the local sports performance gym until they shut all the small businesses down. But for me, it was kind of nice. I mean, obviously, it was going to be a big learning curve coming from my level of football in high school to the college level. So that full year, they canceled our fall season as well as the spring games we had. So that was just a full training year for me, which I was super happy that I got to have that. Obviously, COVID had a lot of negative effects as well, but for that part of the game, I mean, that was huge for me. Just getting more physical, getting used to the speed of the play at that level, and everything. So it was a great developmental year, and it was kind of a blessing in that way.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
definitely worked out in your favor when you think about it. I mean, it's crazy to think about, but yeah, it definitely helped for sure. That's
Oh
pretty
yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
yeah. And so you played tight end when you first went over there. What kind of tight end were you? Were you more of a inline blocking tight end? Were you a red zone threat? People love when basketball players become tight ends because they box out the smaller corners, smaller safeties. What kind of tight end were you when you first started playing?
Yeah, well, I was mainly a blocking tight end. I mean, I might catch maybe I had 1 or 2 receptions a game on like a 5-yard type of hitch or something like that, but we were in my offense, we were mainly just an extra tackle that went out for routes every other play. So, I was kind of like a blocking tight end, which helped that transition to tackle because I knew the run game, I knew the schemes and all that. So transitioning to tackle, in the run game was a lot easier playing that blocking tight end position beforehand. Obviously, we didn't kick slide too much at tight end. We were out in the route concept, but yeah, definitely. I was just a blocking tight end. I wasn't like a Travis Kelce or anything. So
That's awesome. And so talk to us a little bit about, that Ferris State game. Like, how did this happen and they decide to put the tight end at tackle? Talk us through like the moment.
yeah, it was, first half of that game, obviously Ferris, eventual national champions, we were probably losing by 15 to 20 points at halftime. So plus we had injuries. Our right tackle went down with an ankle injury, then a second string guy came in, had a knee injury, right? So, and we were in an away game, so we didn't travel a full 2-line rotation, right? So halftime of the game, we're sitting down, I'm sitting with the tight ends, and I look over and my coach is walking out with a number 65 jersey. So I knew at that point, I'm looking around at the other tight ends and I'm like, none of these guys are going to probably be playing right tackle. I know who's going to be going out there. So he gave it to me, ended up playing. I probably got 5 practice reps in right before the start of the second half and 5 practice, kick slides. And then we went out there, played that second half and did well enough to start the last 2 games of the season at right tackle as well. But yeah, it was crazy. My head was spinning. Every play I was asking the right guard, like, hey, what are we doing on this play? Like, who am I setting to and all this stuff? And it's funny to watch back on. That film was pretty darn funny, but it set me in this direction. I'm super glad that I got that opportunity.
Yeah, man. And that's awesome because, you don't even think you're going to be playing that position. And then you happen to end up going against the best ever pass rusher in Division II college football. He goes on to break the NCAA record for sacks this year. How was that as literally your first experience ending up going against a player of that caliber?
Yeah, it was. Our first string guy was doing well against him, and then our second string guy came in. I remember, he was struggling with him. I think Caleb Murphy had ended up getting maybe 3 sacks in that first half or something like that. So then I'm going out there, and granted, my head's spinning already, and I'm lining up, and I see Caleb Murphy right across the line for me. So I'm thinking, well, the right guard just told me set to him, so I'm thinking I'm going to defend him like a basketball player, right? They do what I think that a right tackle does. Ended up working out. I didn't let up any sacks or any pressures that half, but yeah, it was definitely an experience. Like you said, broke the all-time Division II, sack record and everything, and obviously I think he won the 10 Hendricks Award or whatever, and a great player, and just to be able to go up against him in my first kind of thrown into the action game was something else.
Yeah, man, that's awesome.
Definitely had to give you some confidence holding up against a guy like that, especially, that's like the worst case scenario, you get thrown in at tackle first time ever in your life, and then you're going up against a guy that's going to go on to have 15 sacks that year. So definitely would have had to give you some confidence. Did the 2 tackles that got hurt, did they end up were they able to like play the rest of the season, or were they out for the season and then you were just kind of the incumbent over there?
Yeah, they were out until the very last game, and then the right tackle at the time, my coach liked me at right tackle, so he moved him to right guard, and we played with that lineup. So,
gotcha. Cool. Let's see here. So, having played right tackle last year and then left tackle this year, what position do you feel most comfortable in? And you think you could be like kind of a swing tackle in the NFL? Because, I've been, I kind of like to study O-linemen. I played a little bit O-line in high school, and a lot of people say it's a pretty difficult transition to go from the right side of the line to the left side. So I guess we can start off with first, how was that transition for you, going from right tackle to left? Because like I heard, it's like usually like using your right hand and then trying to do something with your left hand. It's way different. How was that for you?
Yeah, it was definitely different. But luckily, when I made that, sat down with my coach and after the season and said, "Hey, what are we gonna do?" And he said, "We're gonna, we want you to be full-time left tackle next year." So I'd only had 3 weeks of practicing right tackle up to that point. So it wasn't second nature to me yet. I was still learning it. So it was an easier transition. And then run game wise, I mean, that wasn't too difficult just because tight end, I was playing both sides of the line, right? So I was used to using both hands, used to going both ways in the run game. But pass protection, like you said, I mean, you're kicking off that left leg or the right leg, and that was a little bit different, with that weight distribution and stuff. But luckily, I mean, I started 10 games at left tackle this past year and one at right tackle. So I did start both sides of the line. Obviously, only one game, but I practiced both of them. So for me, that was something I wanted to make sure I kept up on because I knew if I was going to this next level, I needed to be able to play both sides and play them both well. So it was something I kept up on. Obviously, a lot more left tackle experience in game, but the right tackle training, we did a lot of it as well. But yeah, like you said, I mean, the transition for a lot of experienced guys when it's all muscle memory and second nature might be a little more difficult. But I only had three weeks under my belt, so it was pretty easy for me, thankfully.
Yeah, definitely. So the inexperience pretty much helped. I mean, makes a lot of sense, which is, it's pretty crazy to think about. Uh, so do you think you feel more comfortable, obviously at left tackle since you have a little bit more experience there, would you say?
Yeah, I would say, if I had to pick a side that I was slightly more comfortable on, probably just left tackle because I took a lot more reps of it this past year.
Definitely. Definitely.
Awesome. And so, playing at the D2 level, how competitive would you say the D2 level has been the past couple of years? Because, with the transfer portal and everything, you see tons of Division One players playing at the D2 level now. Um, and even this past year, you see all these D2 guys going to the Shrine Bowl, Senior Bowl, Combine. So has the level risen, or what would you say is going on at the D2 level right now?
Yeah, I think a level of play at D2, especially in our conference. I mean, I would put up the argument that our conference, the GLIAC, was the best Division II conference in the country. I mean, we have the most Division II guys out of our conference in the NFL versus any other D2 conference, and then we have obviously the powerhouses of Ferris State and Grand Valley State, both in the same conference. And then we had Davenport University made playoffs this year. Saginaw Valley was right on the edge. So we have, I mean, a super competitive conference. And like you said, the portal makes a huge difference. I mean, I think Davenport University, it was crazy. They were in the 21 season. I think they were like 2-9 or something like that. This year they went on to be 9-2.
Wow.
And then I saw at the signing day this past spring in January, they had signed 55 guys, which is insane. And it was, yeah. I mean, you would look at the rosters and see. I remember Davenport, I think it was, had one side of the line was a defensive end that was an Ohio State transfer, and the outside like Will linebacker was like a Michigan transfer, right? So like we have some high level players that just maybe they had issues off the field that caused them to be bumped off that Division I level, or they just were right on the edge. You know what I mean? And Division II level, I mean, there are some great athletes. Obviously, going up to Division I and then the NFL, those are both bigger steps as well. Players are just that much more physical, stronger, faster. But like I said, the GLIAC, that's a powerhouse. I mean, we're dealing with the national champions basically every year, Ferris State, Grand Valley. So it's a good level of football.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Um, when we interviewed Caleb Murphy, he kind of mentioned that guys at the D2 level, they're not really on a meal plan compared to like some of the guys at the D1 level. What are some things kind of similar to that could make it harder for D2 guys when trying to reach the NFL compared to like a D1 guy? What are some of the things that you've experienced that are a little bit different or heard of from other college players?
Yeah, like you said, I mean, the meal plan's one, but also, I mean, a counter argument to that is, we have high level Division II players that have never had any of these meal plans. They haven't had this high level, athletic training, any of that stuff, and they're at the level they're at right now. I mean, just imagine, if you gave them a meal plan, if you provided them with the highest level of resources. So that's also like a good argument for why Division II guys, their ceilings could potentially be higher at the same time. But yeah, like you said, the meal plan, we don't have the luxury of that too often. I think just our resources, we have one full-time athletic trainer, and then we'll have, maybe a couple student assistants, whereas a Division I school might have, three full-time athletic trainers and then five assistants, right? And then just the resources as far as, cold tubs, rehabilitation equipment. You'll see these facilities at the Division I level where they're just, you know, massive, up 10 to 15 cold tubs. We have two little tubs, right? So they're just things like that where, facility wise, resource wise, we make do with what we got, but there's just so much more money at that next level, which helps those guys out a ton.
Yeah, definitely. It's
Yeah.
crazy because you see Texas, with like a remote controlled tub controlling the temperature, then probably people at the D2 level chilling in like the little black round tubs, plastic tubs, throw some packs of ice in there. So
Yeah, no, we
yeah.
do have Lake Superior though. I mean, that's right across the road from our practice field. After every day of fall camp, we walk over there and hop in. So
Nice, using those natural resources. Got to
yeah.
do it.
This wasn't one of our questions, but it made me think of this question when you were talking just now. So not being on like a meal plan or anything, how does a tight end bulk up to be an offensive tackle? You said you were 260, 270. How'd you get all the way up to 300, 305?
Yeah, it's just all nutrition. I mean, I played last season, so I went from probably 265 ish to 280, like 285 ish for last season, and then I finished last season, went from 280 ish to 300, 305 ish, and it was all nutrition based. I mean, I jacked my calories up. I'm eating 6,000 a day. I have a certain amount of carbs, protein, fat that I hit every day, and luckily, I mean, I had graduated with applied exercise science, so I'd taken a lot of nutrition courses, sports nutrition courses, and a lot of my education helped me, be able to formulate a meal plan for myself. And so it was just all nutrition based. I mean, I just jacked up the calories, made sure I was tracking every single day. And I mean, I wasn't discouraged when I would only gain, a pound and a half a week, because I'm thinking, okay, well, you go 15 weeks ahead, you gain basically 25 pounds, right? So just a slow process, but it was just, eating a lot of food.
That's nice. Put the degree right to work. So you love to see
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, it's super cool to hear that like you actually are able to, make up your own meal plans. Like, all right, I need to hit 6,000 calories in a day. It's super cool instead of having somebody come in, paying somebody to make you a meal plan or whatever it is. So definitely cool that you're able to actually use your education for something to help you right away. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no,
Definitely
absolutely.
gonna pay off in the long term.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah.
So you attended Central Michigan's Pro Day, correct?
Yep.
The school that you were one of your interests to walk on at, right?
Yep.
So, the 49ers have a former player that he played at Central Michigan. He was a tight end who converted to tackle, and he went on to be, a longtime great 49er player. His name's Joe Staley. I don't know if you know him or not, but
Oh yeah. Yep.
have you talked to him at all? Have you heard from him? I know he likes to train offensive tackles for the NFL draft. Have you reached out to him or anything like that, just to get like some advice on that transition or anything?
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously I know of the guy, he's a big name guy, and especially from this area. So, I mean, big name guy, goes to the league, plays this many years. and especially in the offensive line circles. I haven't had any communication with them, but like you said, I mean, that would be a great resource for a guy coming from Central Michigan University, going in the league, making a big impact and all this, and that would be a great resource for me to have, though.
Yeah, and it was just interesting to me because that's where you did your pro day, and very, very similar stories. So thought I'd mention it. And another thing I wanted to mention on the 49ers, they also carry Leroy Watson, who he was a undrafted rookie last year, but he was a college tight end who played tight end all throughout college. And then once he hit the NFL, he made the transition over to tackle. So, the 49ers have a lot of experience with this tight end to tackle transition. So, we're hoping over here.
Yeah, no, they you produce some good tackles too, I will say. I mean, one of the best of all time currently playing. So,
Yep, nobody better to
Definitely.
learn under than Trent Williams. That's for
no, that's
sure. First ballot Hall of Famer.
yeah, absolutely.
So kind of talking about some guys in the league, like Trent Williams. What are some other NFL tackles that you try to model your game after, or study up on a little bit? Who are some of those guys?
Yeah, I compare myself to a guy. Obviously, he was, coming from a different background than me. He's a bigger dude too, but Jordan Mailata from the Eagles hadn't played football until he was drafted 7th round to the Eagles. Never played football before. Now they made him one of the top, arguably 5 tackles, maybe top 10 left tackles in the league right now. And he's only getting better, right? And then another guy, same team, Lane Johnson. I mean, he's similar frame to me. He came in when I think he was just 306-ish at his combine or his pro day. Very athletic, similar height. And he's a guy that's gone out to the league. He's put on 20 pounds since he got in, and he's just been dominant. I mean, one of the best right tackles of all time. And just to study his game and see how he uses his frame, his height to, because we'd have similar issues, defending the bull rush is an issue for taller guys. I mean, working in the run game with your being higher up, is an issue as well. So just seeing how he attacks different things, with his athleticism that he has is something that I try to, pick up some tips on.
Yeah, definitely somebody to model your game after, because he just got the bag too, like a year, 36 million,
Yeah.
like 33 guaranteed or something. So yeah, that's definitely somebody to kind of work after for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Which player or players in the NFL do you look forward to facing the most? Who do you want to block?
I want to block. I want to have a chance to block, as you, I stand up against the best. So obviously, I mean, Nick Bosa. I mean, I'm talking like eventually when I know I'm a developmental player, right? So I mean, get a year of development, and then I like to see how I match up against these guys. That's something that excites me is because people have kind of pushed off, the small Division II guys, pushed, especially. I mean, I came from a small high school, all that stuff, kind of people say is a weakness in a way, right? I want to be able to show, guys from our level, which there have been many success stories in the past, but I want to be another one, right? That shows, we can play with the best. So it just excites me, to play the best players that I can. And, obviously Nick Bosa, Micah Parsons, Matt Judon, like any of the best pass rushers, when I get to that level would be something that would really excite me.
Yeah, and Matt Judon, also Division II, correct?
Yeah, Grand Valley State from
yeah.
the conference, yeah.
Yeah, definitely interesting too, because like you said earlier, imagine putting these D2 guys that have the talent, they just need the resources, get in an NFL weight room or get into a sorry about that, my daughter came busting in. Get into an NFL weight room, get an NFL nutrition plan, great coaching up there. So it's almost like that ceiling isn't even close to being tapped, which is, definitely something that we're going to be watching with you for sure. And excited to see, where you can end up with that. So kind of our last question here as we wind it down a little bit. Have you been contacted by the 49ers, or have you talked to them at all? I
Yeah,
guess we can start with that one first.
yeah. I spoke with them at the pro day, sat down and met with the regional scout. And since then, I spoke with the regional scout again this past weekend, actually, and spoke with them a few weeks ago on the phone. So there's been some pretty steady contact. My agent's been in good contact as well. But yeah, yep.
Definitely. It's interesting because last year we interviewed a guy that was going into the draft too, Jason Poe. He ended up getting signed by the 49ers. He kind of had a transition. I believe he played fullback and then went to guard. And he ended up being the 49ers offensive practice squad player of the year. So the Niners definitely are able to form and mold these offensive linemen into something bigger than themselves, which is pretty neat. Um, have any scouts or anybody that you've really talked to, general managers, coaches, or anything like that, have they given you kind of a range of where you could be picked at?
Yeah, I've heard from, one team, the highest team that's rated me as a possible fourth round pick. I've heard multiple fifths. And then the majority are, sixth to seventh, the priority free agent, So I've heard anywhere from fourth from one team down to a priority free agent. So somewhere in that range, yeah.
Definitely. As of late too, it seems like your name has definitely been picking up some talk. Looking at Twitter, we follow a lot of draft people and other 49ers coverage people than other teams too. And your name has definitely been picking up, around those places. Have you been getting a lot of I know you've probably been getting a bunch of people reaching out for podcasts and stuff. So how's that been for you? Is this good practice for the actual interviews, the interviews that count?
Oh, absolutely. It's been a great way to just sharpen up, like you said, the interview
Yeah,
skills. And it's also fun. It's just fun to get on these podcasts and chat. And everybody has different questions, that haven't been asked before. So it's always exciting, always fun to hop on and chat.
definitely.
Yeah, and we have a couple of things we want to pull up right quick for you. So, you killed the pro day, you smashed it. So, people make the RAS score. Have you heard about those? The
I have,
relative
yep,
athletic
yep.
score? Yeah. So, I wanted to pull up some comparisons, and this is just showing, athletic comparisons. So we got Trent Williams coming out of Oklahoma, and we have you here with your pro day numbers. And if you look, pretty similar. Obviously, you got some height on him, and he has some weight on you,
Hmm.
but pretty much everything else is, hand in hand, almost exact. Um, what better ball of clay to mold than behind Trent Williams? Same athletic ability. Wanted to show this one, and then I have one more for you here. Where is it? All right, and then who I mentioned earlier, Joe Staley, Central
Oh, yeah.
Michigan guy. We have, you're again a little taller, but same weight. And then again, numbers are very, very close. You look at
Hmm.
the 10-yard split, pretty similar numbers there. And then, vert, broad jump, shuttles, all very, very close. So,
Hmm.
the athletically right on par with these top guys. So now it's just going to take a team, molding you into that type of player. So,
Yeah.
we hope that no matter what team you go to, you get a great offensive line coach on that team.
No, absolutely. Yeah. That's the biggest thing for me is just having a coach that will, take that time, whether it's the full O-line coach or the assistant O-line coach that will develop me, right? Because at the end of the day, I know I'm a developmental prospect with a high ceiling, and I just need a coach that will develop me, right? And you've seen many success stories about players, especially in this offensive line position, that have had great, developmental stories. So that's just, my goal is to be somebody that with a very high ceiling that can develop for a year, be a swing tackle for a year, and then work into a starting role after that. So
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
definitely. 49ers right tackle position. We just lost Mike McGlinchey, so we're probably going to need one coming up in a couple years. If you just happen to make it to the undrafted range, don't forget about us.
No, heck, San Francisco too. Not a bad place, eh?
Just expensive.
Yeah.
Be ready for them taxes, man. You'll be living in a 1-bedroom apartment paying like $5,000 or something a month. So.
Oh man, yeah.
Yeah. But do you have anything else, Joe?
Yeah, we have so Devin Jackson on Twitter. He's a draft analyst. Only place I was able to find some clips of you. I was trying to find some game film. I could not find any Northern Michigan game film, but Devin Jackson posted a highlight clip of you. So I want to play that really this show. Oh, hold on, something happened.
Kind of looking at this highlight tape, while we're looking at these last couple plays, how would you describe your play style? Would you say you're a kind of a power guy, or would you say you're more like a finesse, kind of more relying on your technique, or would you say you're kind of like a bully, hand in the dirt, getting after it, or would you say you're more of a finesse technique type of player?
Yeah, I would say just because of my, at that time I was playing lighter. I was probably only 280-ish, and I was, there would be issues at the time due to my lighter weight. So I couldn't play with as much power as I can now. So I had to rely on a little more athleticism, a little more finesse. But as my games progress, or as my weights progress now, I'm becoming more of a power player. But that athleticism is going to allow me to keep that finesse. You know what I mean, and keep that athleticism. Whereas outside zone play or whatever, or draw play, those are my specialties because I'm able to get out quicker than a lot of the other guys. So
definitely. And that's right up the 49ers alley, man. I don't want to keep beating a dead horse over here, but you're just lining up perfectly. Do you have anything else, Joe?
No, we appreciate you joining us, Jake, and we love having the underrated, unheralded prospects on here, and you got fans for life from us, and we appreciate you, and we wish you the best of luck in the draft and going forward with your career.
No, absolutely. I appreciate you guys having me on this nice Friday. But yeah, appreciate it again. Absolutely. If you guys ever want to keep in touch, just shoot me a message. So
yeah, definitely.
Yes, sir.
Definitely. Let's see. Hopefully you'll land on the Niners, like we said. But thanks for coming on, and good luck in your career going forward.
I appreciate that.
No problem.
All right, we'll see you guys next time.
Money!